My name is Emily Parker. I was 18 years old, and after 4 years of studying before sunrise, tutoring classmates after school, and spending almost every weekend preparing for entrance exams, I had finally done it. I had been accepted to Princeton University on an academic scholarship. When the email arrived, I read it 3 times before I believed it. My father hugged me so hard that my glasses nearly fell off. My mother cried. Even my younger sister, Chloe, smiled and congratulated me. For one evening, everything felt perfect. 2 days later, it all changed. I came home from school and found my parents sitting in the emergency department waiting room. My mother's eyes were red from crying. My father looked exhausted. Chloe had collapsed during gym class. Doctors wanted to run more tests. No one knew exactly what was wrong. The following week became a blur of hospital visits, blood tests, specialist appointments, and unanswered questions. Every conversation inside our house sounded the same. Maybe it is nothing. Maybe it is something serious. We just do not know yet. Then one night, I walked into the kitchen and heard my parents talking after they thought I had gone upstairs. Dad spoke first. "If the worst happens, we will need Emily here." Mom quietly agreed. She said we could not manage hospital visits, bills, work, and Chloe's care without help. Then she said something I never expected to hear. "Emily can always start college next year. Family has to come first." I stood frozen in the hallway. Neither of them knew I had heard every word. Not once had they asked me what I wanted. Not once had they said, "Let's wait until we know what the doctors find." My freshman year, the scholarship housing, the research program I had worked years to earn. All of it had already been placed on the table, not because of facts, because of fear. A few days later, Princeton emailed asking me to confirm my enrollment. The deadline was only 48 hours away. At almost the exact same moment, Chloe walked past me in the hallway. She smiled. Not the smile of someone frightened. The smile of someone who already believed she had won. And I still had no idea just how much that smile was about to cost me. The enrollment deadline arrived on a Thursday afternoon. I stared at my laptop for almost an hour. Princeton had given me 2 choices: confirm my enrollment or request a 1-year deferral. The scholarship would remain, but my freshman research placement would not. The honors housing I had been selected for would also be gone. Those opportunities could never be guaranteed again. I kept reading the email, hoping the words would somehow change. They did not. Downstairs, another conversation drifted through the hallway. Dad had just gotten off the phone with the hospital. More tests, more appointments, more waiting. No diagnosis, only more uncertainty. Mom quietly walked into my room. She sat beside me without saying anything at first. Then, dusk, she gently placed her hand over mine. "Emily, I know what we are asking is unfair, but your sister needs us, and right now, we need you." I looked at the acceptance letter hanging above my desk. For years, that piece of paper had represented every early morning, every missed party, every weekend spent studying instead of relaxing. Now it felt like a goodbye letter. I opened the university portal, clicked Request Deferral, then pressed Submit. The confirmation email arrived less than a minute later. Just like that, the year I had spent my entire childhood chasing disappeared with one click. That evening, Chloe came home from another doctor's appointment. Everyone gathered around to ask how she was feeling. I quietly carried my textbooks upstairs. No one asked how I was doing. Not because they did not love me, because they believed my pain could wait. Weeks turned into months. Doctors ruled out one illness after another. Still no answers. Still no serious diagnosis. Yet nothing inside our home changed. Every family decision revolved around Chloe. One afternoon, I returned home early from work and stopped outside her bedroom. She was laughing on a video call with one of her friends. I smiled. It was the happiest I had heard her sound in months. Then I heard something that made me stop walking. Her friend asked, "Do your parents still think something is seriously wrong?" Chloe laughed again. Her answer came so casually. It sounded like she had forgotten anyone else might hear it. And in that moment, everything I believed about the past 6 months began to fall apart. I stood outside Chloe's bedroom without making a sound. She still had not noticed I was there. Her friend laughed through the phone speaker. "Seriously, do your parents still think you might have cancer?" For a moment, the room went quiet. Then Chloe answered, "They worry too much. I have tried telling them I feel better. They just keep acting like every headache is the end of the world." Her friend laughed again. "Must be nice getting everything you want." There was another short silence. Then Chloe said something I will never forget. "Maybe, but sick always beats smart in this house." Both girls laughed. I felt the air leave my lungs, not because she had admitted to inventing an illness. She had not. She admitted something even worse. She knew our parents were making life-changing decisions because they feared losing her, and she never once stopped them. I quietly stepped away from the door before she could see me. That night, I could not sleep. Every sacrifice replayed itself in my mind. The deferred enrollment, the research program, the campus housing, the extra shifts at work. None of those choices had been based on a diagnosis. They had been based on assumptions that no one had challenged. The next morning, I drove to the hospital by myself. I asked the receptionist whether I could speak with the physician overseeing Chloe's case. After a short wait, he invited me into his office. He reviewed the latest reports before looking up at me. "Emily, I cannot discuss every detail because of privacy rules. But I can tell you this. At this point, we have found no evidence of cancer, no evidence of a life-threatening disease. We are continuing routine evaluations because your sister has reported occasional symptoms. But medically, there is nothing that supports the fears your family has been carrying." I thanked him and walked back to my car. For nearly 6 months, our entire family had been living as though we were racing against time. The doctors never told us to put our lives on hold. We had chosen to do that ourselves, and someone inside our house had quietly allowed it to happen. The question was no longer whether my future had been stolen. The question was, who was finally going to tell my parents the truth? That evening, I asked both of my parents to sit down with me after dinner. Chloe was already in the living room scrolling through her phone. Nobody knew why I wanted to talk. Dad smiled politely. "What is on your mind?" I placed the Princeton deferral confirmation on the coffee table. Then I placed the university housing cancellation beside it. Finally, I laid my research acceptance letter next to both documents. 3 pieces of paper. 1 year of my life. Mom looked at them without speaking. Dad slowly picked up the deferral notice. "Emily, why are you showing us these?" "Because every one of those papers exists for the same reason. Fear, not facts." The room became completely silent. I told them about my conversation with the physician. I repeated his words exactly. No evidence of cancer, no evidence of a life-threatening illness. Routine evaluations were continuing, nothing more. Dad frowned. "But we thought," I gently interrupted him. "I know what we all thought. My question is different. Who told us to put my life on hold?" Neither of them answered. I looked at Chloe. She avoided my eyes. I asked her only one question. Did you ever tell Mom and Dad that the doctors believed you were dying? She quietly shook her head. No. Did you ever tell them to cancel my future? Another slow shake of her head. No. Then I asked the question that changed the room. When you realized everyone believed the worst, why did you never correct them? For the first time all evening, Chloe looked genuinely uncomfortable. She stared at the floor before speaking. Because, for once, everything was about me. Then she looked directly at me. I never wanted you to lose Princeton. I just did not want the attention to end. Those words hit my parents harder than they hit me. Mom covered her mouth. Dad slowly sat back in his chair as though the weight of the past 6 months had finally caught up with him. The truth was painful, not because Chloe had created an illness. She had not. The truth was that our entire family had built life-changing decisions around assumptions. And no one had stopped long enough to ask whether those assumptions were true. For the first time since this began, my parents finally realized they had not only failed me, they had failed both of their daughters. The house felt different after that conversation. No one raised their voice, no one walked away. For the first time in months, everyone simply sat with the consequences of their own decisions. The following morning, Dad knocked on my bedroom door. He was holding a folder. Inside were copies of my Princeton acceptance letter, my scholarship documents, and the deferral confirmation I had submitted months earlier. He placed them on my desk and quietly said, I spent 6 months trying to protect one daughter. Without realizing, I was asking the other daughter to give up the future she spent 18 years building. Mom sat beside him. Tears filled her eyes. Emily, we kept telling ourselves there would always be another year. We never stopped to ask whether another year would cost you opportunities you could never get back. For the first time since I received my acceptance letter, my parents finally understood what they had taken from me. That afternoon, Chloe came into my room. She looked smaller somehow, not because anything about her had changed, because the attention she had held onto for months was finally gone. She sat across from me and spoke without looking up. I was jealous. Every conversation was about Princeton. Every relative called to congratulate you. Then everyone started worrying about me, and I liked how it felt. I should have told Mom and Dad they were making decisions they did not have to make. I never wanted your future. I just wanted to feel important, I nodded. For the first time, I believed her. Jealousy had made her selfish, but fear had made my parents unfair. Both things were true. A year later, I finally walked across Princeton's campus as a freshman. It was not the beginning I had imagined, but it was still my beginning. When my parents helped carry my boxes into my dorm, Dad stopped before leaving. He looked around the room, then smiled at me. This time, no one is asking you to put your life on hold. I smiled back. They never should have asked the first time. As I watched them drive away, I realized something. My sister did not steal my future. Fear almost did. The moment my family finally chose truth over assumptions, my future became mine again. Before you go, I would love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever felt that your hard work was overlooked because someone else's crisis became everyone's priority? Tell me what country you're watching from in the comments. And if this story spoke to you, subscribe to Public Evidence and turn on the bell so you never miss another original story.